programming director for the Fort Myers Beach International Film Festival, welcoming you guys back to a fantastic interview with an awesome filmmaker who has a fantastic film called The Lost Weekend, which is streaming September 26th at 7 p.m. His name is Ryan O'Leary. I had a chance to meet him at a festival in Cincinnati basically last year. So super excited to welcome him in. Let's bring on Ryan O'Leary. Yo, what's up, man?
Hey, Kyle. How's it going?
It's doing good. It's doing good. First off, dude, super excited to chat with you. I'm super bummed that we didn't get a chance to hang out in Fort Myers, but thanks for allowing us to show your film. And it's great to catch up, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So, first big question, right, is the inspiration behind the story. It's an absolute beautiful film, man. The cinematography is fantastic. The color work has been great on it. But I want to really know about just the story and kind of what inspired you to write this story.
Sure. This is like one of those wacky reverse engineered cases where I had this feature film called The Lost Year that I wrote that we set out to produce back in 2016. And we came very close to getting that made, like dangerously close. Like Variety wrote an article about it where you can see actors that were involved that ended up not being involved. But due to a number of circumstances, the feature kind of fell apart, but we still had a budget already raised. And after some time of kind of hitting a fundraising wall, one of my producers like, why don't we just make a short of what we have? So ended up kind of truncating this story that takes place over a year to like doing a works in the span of a few days. So I wanted to do like an honest look at modern relationships as well as family issues. And really just, I wanted to do something that felt funny, sincere, and moving to me that has some stuff pulled from real life. So it was this weird experience of adapting, a 90-page screenplay into something that's under 20 pages where you're cutting out half the characters and hoping that makes sense. It was very tricky in a lot of ways. And I'm so glad we did it, though, to work with so many wonderful people.
Dude, I don't think I even realized it was at one point a feature film written, and that's incredible, man. It's an absolutely beautiful film, and for those who are watching, I would love to play a quick preview of The Lost Weekend. Let's take a look.
I'm at max capacity. I'm tapping out.
No. You can't tap out because I have to tap in if you tap out.
Is that your scheduled text with an emergency in case this date isn't going well?
No, it's my dad. I don't get it. You can barely have a conversation with him when I'm home, but when I'm here, the guy who had a heart attack less than a year ago, thinks it's urgent to tell me that Grillo's Pizza closed.
Oh, no.
Dude, wow, man. That's unreal. Who did your cinematography for that, by the way?
Evan Jake Cohen, fantastic cinematographer who we actually, going to make the short, we went through actually 2 or 3 DPs before him where we just had events of not so much fortune, where the first DP we had about 3 weeks before we were supposed to start filming, he got offered like a gig of a lifetime. He got paid basically got offered something that paid very well, and like we would have been jerks to be like, no, do it. Then our second DP that we would have had got very sick in England. She was in England, I think, because we shot this like a week after Thanksgiving. Wow. She got very sick and couldn't even fly back home. So Evan, we got with like, I want to say a little over a week's notice, and he just did such an amazing job and was pivotal to making this thing work. But there was like a minute before him when we were really reaching, like, it's one thing when you have a lot of time, but we had like a little over a week and we had these actors committed. So I was just like, I remember telling my producer, Anthony, like, dude, if we have to, we'll shoot this on an iPhone and maybe it'll still work, but I don't want to lose. I knew the cast that we had, we would not get again, especially at, the very reasonable rates they were working for. It's like, I didn't want to tempt fate with that. And we got so lucky that Evan was able to shoot the movie because he just did an amazing job and was great to work with. And I can't help but wonder too, if he had more time in prep, like how much is as good as he did, as amazing as it is. It's like, wow, if we had just a few more weeks of prep with him, I bet it would have been even better. But I was blown away by his talent and also just being solid to work with.
I'm shocked that you're actually telling me it was a pretty quick turnaround, because it doesn't look that way at all, man. I mean, the cinematography is on point. And you mentioned, I mean, you have a pretty amazing, all-star cast here. You have, I think, a Tony Award winner in there. What did that process look like of getting, some of these pretty fantastic actors? Because the cast is also great and they're flawless. But what did that process look like? How did you acquire these for those maybe who are looking to achieve something like that?
Sure. So when we were developing the feature version, we hired this great casting director, Adrian Stern. And there were people who were attached to the feature version who are not in this. However, I got to give a props to Gracie Gillen. She was always attached. She played Maggie Mae. She was attached to the feature, stayed on board throughout all the issues we had with that, and then came on and did the short and was awesome. So Adrian was willing to still cast the parts for the short since the feature didn't come together right. So Adrian brought in, Reed Birney, Sam Bartholomew, the lead, who's incredible actor. Catherine Curtin, who's like on, Stranger Things, Orange is the New Black, and a million other things, playing Antagonist with like 3 lines. Like, I don't, I was like, all right, we'll see if she'll do it. And then Libe Barar, who's in the first scene as Penelope, she was someone who originally, when we sent, basically the way it usually works, the casting director will give you like a list of people that come to mind. And with Libe, it said New York/LA, and she was in LA at the time, and we just couldn't justify flying someone out for this one scene role. But by the grace of God, Libe wanted to do it, and I don't know if she cares that I say this, but she booked her own flight to New York, and I guess she had other stuff going on. And and Libe was on the show Sneaky Pete on Amazon, which I was a fan of, and I was just amazed that people were willing to do it. What's cool is when you work on a movie this small, people doing it for the paycheck, and it really, I think it shows in the performances, and then honestly, more importantly, with just working with everyone was just such a delight. And I feel like we got so lucky. We shot this thing over the course of 3 days, and two of the days we finished ahead of schedule, but there was the second day, which was when all the stuff with Reed and Kathy and the Christmas type thing, all of that was the same long, difficult day, and everyone was just cool with it. And Reed, there's this sequence towards the end, without spoiling it, where there's these home movies, and Reed improvised all this dialogue as a dad watching his kid grow up, and he improvised every line. And then I thought, I was going into it, I'm all right, we're gonna have to have him come in later to match whatever video we use. But no, I had minutes of this incredible actor just riffing, but it was just so inspiring. I remember Sam Bartholomew there leading with me as Reed was doing this, and we were both so moved because it just sounded so genuine. And I feel like we got just so lucky with the cast.
Yeah, dude, that's incredible, man. it's funny. We were talking right before last, and I first saw this film in Cincinnati because we were down there at a festival together. And I got to tell the story. I hope you don't mind, but the first time, for those watching, the first time I met Ryan was at this really cool festival down in Cincinnati. And I walk up to you because I recognize you from somewhere. I'm like, why do I know him? And then I realized that you were a submission for our film festival, and you had 2 White Claw pounders in your hand. And I didn't even know White Claw pounders even existed until that moment. But that was that's when I first watched your film, man, and it was amazing, man, and it's beautiful, dude.
Yeah, I guess I should tell the other story from Cincinnati. So I don't remember if I ever told you this, so if I did, pretend this is the first time.
Okay.
So I remember, my thing, as you go to more film festivals, yeah, you want to hear the stuff that people are talking about if that happens, but to me, if someone's cool and leaves a good impression, I want to see their film. That's so important to me. And I remember you telling me about your film, and I took down the name of it, I put it in my phone as a reminder, and then your film, I believe, was playing in the block directly ahead of mine. So I knew I had to, and it was I think your block was at 4, ours was at 6, and I really wanted to eat dinner before. Anyway, long story short,
yeah,
my girlfriend and I watched your film in the block, and then we got out of there right after, just because I wanted to make sure to eat something. And so I go to the Filmmaker's Lounge, and there was another filmmaker who kind of looked like you, but now in retrospect, not so much. And I won't say his name or anything, but I went up to him, and I was like, wow, dude, your film, I really loved it. It was so moving. How did you shoot in a hospital? And the guy, at first was kind of humorous, and then we both kind of started to realize, oh, shit, this is a different person. And then he told me what his movie was. And like I was kind of bluffing, but I was like, "Oh yeah, I heard great things about them. I'm sorry, man." And he goes, "Yeah, I heard it was good too." And he was like such a jerk. And like, granted, like but it's like anyway. But that's my Cincinnati story for you, because I was so excited to talk to you about your film, because I'm like, how did like The Boy Here, like how logistically does that movie happen? And then like I end up talking to this dude who had nothing to do with it and was kind of a jerk about it.
Dude, yeah. That is the first time I'm hearing that story. I mean, that's priceless. That's great. I'm glad I wasn't obviously that guy, because thank you for rushing at dinner. That means a lot. But man, that is a pretty great story. So Ryan, I have a question I'm asking a lot of people is, right, you have a fantastic, film, and you've done, I mean, this has been all over. I mean, I think every couple of minutes on Instagram, I see it was at a different film festival. You were traveling, you were in Australia for a little bit?
Yeah.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah, well, Australia, England, it was supposed to play in Italy, and then the pandemic happened.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we've had a very fortunate and lucky run, meet a lot of good people along the way. And for anyone watching at home who's making films, send it to festivals. And like some weird, very specific tip I gotta say. Sorry, that's my dog freaking out.
All right.
About this tip. On Film Freeway, they have an option where you can like pay, like it's like not a lot of, it's very little money, where basically they feature your film in like an ad that goes out to all the programmers at different festivals. And I did that a little bit into our festival run, and we got so many like waiver codes and discount codes for festivals that we ended up screening at. So like that's like one practical piece of advice, not to shell for Film Freeway, but that was something where some festivals, such as the one in Italy that like I would have never even heard of, they gave us a huge discount. I was like, all right, I'll send it. But we've been just very, very fortunate, and I'm glad that, it sucks that the last few, we have to do it virtually, but I think that's better than crowding people into a theater and giving them COVID. So
yeah, absolutely. And then like I said, this is such a bummer. We had such really fun things planned for this year, and right, we're hoping to bring it the best we possibly can virtually for now, but hopefully in 2021 we can get everybody back and do a pretty awesome film festival, man. So, what's the one thing you're most proud about for the Lost Weekend? There was one thing you're like proud about.
One thing, yeah, the pressure. I guess in a weird way, I think it was just, this doesn't sound lame, but it was just seeing so many people come together to work on this thing that I wrote in New Jersey. You know what I mean? And just seeing someone like a Reed Birney, Kathy Curtin, Evan J. Cohen, the DP, my friend Taylor, who cuts these like huge important movies. Like he was the assistant editor on Manchester by the Sea, and he did 2 days to kind of help me out. And like I don't necessarily think I deserve to get to work with all these people, but it was really inspiring just seeing, one of these actors read the lines of dialogue, or working with my producer Anthony Pedoni, or Chris Ballant, who was the lead actor in my feature film The Backseat when I was 22, getting to work with him again. It was just, I would say I was most proud of that, because there's something just special about bringing together all these people. And like, I feel very, very, very fortunate that we were able to make something out of what honestly was a disappointing situation. I still hope to make the feature version, but just the fact that, hell, even the investors, when I came back to them, I'm like, look, we don't have enough money to make this as a feature anytime soon. Would you be cool with us using your funds to make it into a really good short? And they were supportive. Like really, everyone was so cool along the way. And then, it's been great getting to meet people like you, and, and then people like the other filmmaker who I met in Cincinnati, who wasn't being like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. But it's been kind of, travel all over with it. And I got to say too, it's weird saying it now because we're doing this virtually, but, I really wish more of my filmmaker friends would be, and I understand there's financial limitations to everything, but to go to like these screenings, because it's just, that's where you meet the people you end up working with. So
yeah, that's the one thing I really admired about you, man, is when you were getting into all these film festivals. I mean, you were there. I think I follow you on Instagram, and I remember seeing you got into Australia, but you were also playing in California, and you had a picture in Australia, and then the next day you were in California. And I'm like, how the hell did he do that? And I mean, that's commitment, dude. And I think that's a big part of the film festival circuit is meeting people, getting to know everybody, and sort of building that connection. It is unfortunate that some filmmakers can't make it to festivals, but I think it is something that, you know, it's a big part of the journey, I think.
Yeah, and if you're fortunate enough to be able to either afford to go or, yeah, and then like also like when there was something where it was double booked, or I couldn't, like, I don't know, sometimes you get lucky and you know people in the area who are connected to the movie that can go and represent, and it's better than, you know, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, for sure. So you've been a filmmaker for some time. I think you did a feature film prior to this, right?
Yes. Yeah, I did a no-budget feature film when I was fresh out of college that I put myself into a lot of debt making, but it opened up doors that made it easier to make more stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So if you had one piece of advice for your younger filmmaker self, what would it be?
I would say make stuff, especially if you're in film school or you're at a younger age where you don't have to support a child or something. Like, even if it's shooting on your iPhone, make as many things as possible. Mistakes. Don't be afraid of it being bad, because it probably will be, and maybe it won't be. But I always say, like, when I talk to like younger people who, especially when they want to write screenplays, it's like, it's bad until it's good. So just keep rewriting, keep making stuff, and finish what you start. Just today I was sending someone my thesis home from college, which has a ton of issues that like make me not really want to show it to anyone, but I'm still glad that I finished it and it didn't become something that sits on the shelf. You've probably met enough actors and filmmakers where everyone has some feature they tried to make and they weren't happy with it, so they didn't finish it. And I just think that's like a lame excuse. Like, no, finish it, put it out, promote it, and then, you know, in a few years, well, I didn't, but I would say, yeah, like, make stuff. And you hear Jason Reitman, who's a filmmaker I admire a lot, but his father's Ivan Reitman, and Ivan Reitman, also a very famous director. One of his regrets that he told Jason was just not being prolific enough when he was younger and being really choosy about what he put his time into. So I just think it's, going out there and making the stuff. And in the case of the feature that The Lost Weekend was based on, I still want to make that, but I know there's no way to do it without a certain size budget. So in the meantime, I've written this other feature that we're probably going to make pretty soon, because I wrote it to one location, and just, I don't know, I feel like you got to make stuff, and that's the only way you get better. And you can't just wait around for someone to hand you a blank check, or think that some actor is going to attach themselves to your project and suddenly the dream comes true. Because at least in my experience, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's spot on, man. I think that's really great advice for any filmmaker who I think is just starting out, because that's 100% true. So I do have a question, because your shirt just reminded me of this. Is your music selection of The Lost Weekend was so unique, and there's actually some I think songs in there that you featured in. Did you guys have the music in mind ahead of time, or did that come later, or what inspired you for the music? Because it's so great.
I had some of it ahead of time, and like, so musician, I love Chris Farron is his name. He was in a band called Fake Problems that I was listening to when I was in high school. Me and him kind of became Twitter friends at some point. And with The Lost Year, I knew I needed Christmas music to like establish the time and place. And he did this Christmas album kind of on a lark that I think is just incredible and beautiful. So I went to one of his shows and talked to him about it. I'm like, is this something you'd be into? And thankfully he was. And then when we did it as the short, I reached out to him again and he was cool with it. And and then just some of the other music in there, I either knew some of the bands, or, you know, there's, I think, this band Prince Daddy and the Hyena, who I was a fan of, but I didn't know that we used in the sequence where they were like running around taking dating profile pictures. Like, I just wrote them kind of a cold email, and their manager just asked if they could see a cut of the scene, because at this point the film was cut together, and you know how it goes. You put stuff in there sometimes knowing that it could get replaced, but then they were cool with it. So, wow. Yeah, I definitely, you know, I played in bands throughout high school and college. I still play in one now, and, you know, up until the pandemic, I was going to shows regularly. So I kind of learned to an extent, if you can approach them at one of their shows and just tell them, and they see that you're not some suit trying to exploit their music, most people are pretty understanding and will let you use their songs. Sometimes they won't, but in the case of this, every song we wanted, I was able to get right away. And I think it just came from that approach, though, being like, look, this is what it is. It's a short film. It's not going to make money. So, like, you know, as long, like, it worked out for us. But I'm sure if I just sent an email and didn't follow up in person on some of them, maybe it wouldn't have happened. We have very lucky.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I loved the music.
Yeah. Also, I should say, before I overlook it too, we also had an amazing composer, Megan Carnes, who I'd known for a number of years, and this is my first time getting to work with her. Just got to give her a shout out because she did a great job and didn't want to lose that.
Nah, man, the music, the composing, and the song choice, all of it was fantastic. And I think that was like one of my judges' comments. They had wrote that how awesome the music was, and the music, it stuck with them. Not only the story and the acting, but the music was one thing that just they kept referring back to, which is I think what makes this film great, because it's something memorable, which is awesome, dude. So I had a question for you. Oh man, I totally drew a blank. Oh yeah. So where can we find you, man? Like on social media? Do you have a website? Like where can we keep up with you?
Yeah, I have a very out of date website, RyanO'LearyFilms.com, updated in years. I'm supposedly fixing that up. I'm on Instagram, Twitter at The Bloody Mess. On Facebook, you can find the film. It's under The Lost Weekend Movie. I'm probably easy enough to find through Facebook as well. And yeah, man, I'm very, you know, hopefully the website I will have a better website soon, as I'm in the hellish process of getting another feature film off the ground. And we're at very, like, hey, this is where I pretend to be really confident in myself and you hopefully invest in this. So yeah, I got to kind of get the website going because it hasn't been years. But yeah.
Well, congrats on the feature, man. That sounds super exciting. Again, you have a great film. We're super excited to play. I'm so sorry we couldn't do it in person, but hey, man, it was great to catch up, dude.
Yeah.
So much for connecting, and for those watching, guys, the Lost Weekend stream September 26th, 7 p.m. Thanks, man.
Cool.
Have a good one, dude.
You too.
Later, Ryan. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please stick around. We have a whole bunch of other great interviews coming up. The festival starts in a week, a little over a week right now. So stick around. A lot more to come. Till then, bye-bye.